As of recording this, we are roughly 8 days from Chapter 5 being over, and let me tell you something. I have never in my 7 years of playing this game looked forward to getting out of a chapter more than I have with Chapter 5. But despite this longing for a new chapter, it is getting so hard to have hope for the future of this game. And why is that, might you ask? A short year and a half ago, this game was completely different from what it is now, and I genuinely laugh at myself from that time because I was complaining about certain aspects of the game, which is fair because like most people have issues or quirks with the games they play. But if I knew what was coming after Chapter 4 Season OG, I would have shut my mouth real quick and tried to enjoy what little we had left of what actually felt like Fortnite Battle Royale. Now, I want to take some time to talk about Season OG. The Chapter 1 OG, not the upcoming Chapter 2, which we'll discuss later in this video. I think with almost a year since its launch, it's safe to say that while it wasn't perfect, Epic did do a really good job with Season OG. I mean, heck, the numbers speak for themselves. 7 years into Battle Royale's life, Epic saw their peak player count at a staggering 11.6 million concurrent players on December 1st, 2023. This number has been thrown around a lot, and by no means is new information. However, there's a detail a lot of people seem to gloss over when mentioning this crazy statistic. December 1st was 48 hours before the official release of Chapter 5 Season 1. This is new information, at least to me, when researching for this video, and watching the line graph of players just trying to enjoy the last little crumb of all-around enjoyable Fortnite is just kind of sad. I mean, sure, of course the player count is going to spike on one of the last days of Epic finally bringing back Chapter 1, but there's clearly a reason for this. Nostalgia is a drug, and there's no doubt about that, but I would argue that while yes, Season OG was in a lot of ways carried by nostalgia, the game was just Fortnite. It was just Fortnite, dude. It was the beautiful, saturated colors and beautiful sunsets and backgrounds and skyboxes and fun, crazy loot pool, all while managing to just be peaceful and quiet. This is something that I miss so badly from the past seasons of Fortnite. The game has become so loud, and the ambiance of the breeze and animals making noise, which I will say is still present, is different, and it's not the same. Now, I apologize, that was a bit of a crash out there, I'll admit, and it probably won't be the last time I have one in this video. But going back to what I said, what did I mean by it was just Fortnite? This is essentially the thesis of this video, because again, like I said earlier, in just the last year, this game has changed its fundamental identity in the gaming world. Or should I say, the marketing world. Concluding Season OG, we would see the return of the Black Hole event, which on paper sounded really cool. Then we were literally force-fed an ad for 5 minutes straight that showed almost no gameplay of any of the games except for Festival, and then afterwards a giant M&M popped up and rapped at us for a few minutes and then smacked us back into the wormhole we came from, and then it was over. That was it. An ad and a collab cash grab. Epic just decided to spit on their old events by making us think it was going to be an awesome sort of history repeating itself type of classic Fortnite event, only to be completely let down and not even mention Battle Royale once. Needless to say, this was an extremely disappointing end to one of the best eras of Fortnite we've ever had, and Epic missed out big time on this event if you asked me. The next morning, we would all hop on and try to make sense of this confusing cutscene we watched the day before. And when we opened the game, oh my gosh, it was as if like a developer had thrown up all over the UI. It was so awful. The item shop and the locker were definitely, like they got the worst of this treatment. And like they got a complete overhaul that like took myself and other people that I know several minutes just to figure out how to navigate the new UI. Like it was just so awful. And probably because this game has never changed this much, and it was all the changes they made to the UI were perfectly fine how they were before Chapter 5. This is a quick side note. Like I will never understand why companies choose to like change things that no one was complaining about or had any problems with. And I've thought like, oh, maybe it's one of those things that just doesn't make sense until you're like in the shoes of the developer. But man, like it just does not compute with my consumer brain at all. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about, this might come as a bit of a shock, and it's going to be pretty controversial amongst the people that watch this video, I'm sure. But and do I have any grounds for what I'm about to say? Not really, but I'm confident in it, and I reserve the right to my own opinion. But I genuinely do believe that Epic Games giving us Fortnite Season OG is one of the slimiest things the company has ever done to this community.
What? No, all right. I know that sounds bad.
Now, stick with me here. I know that sounds backwards. I know it sounds crazy, and probably gonna get some hate for that. But like, just hear me out, okay? And I want to make it clear, I was in the exact same boat of most other people, hoping that one day we could go back to the Chapter 1 map and era in some capacity. And I should also say, I loved OG. Like, it was so much fun. One of the best times I've ever had with Battle Royale over the last 7 years. Like, genuinely, like, morale in the game was just at an all-time high for me. But in hindsight, part of me wishes that we never went back. And that sounds harsh. And like, not to say that I don't wish we would ever go back. I just think the time that Epic decided to do it, in hindsight of Chapter 5 almost being over and seeing what has happened since Season OG ended, I really wish it never would have happened. And I will explain. I promise that I'm not crazy. You may disagree, but I promise that what I'm saying has merit and makes sense in some logical capacity. Now, first of all, I'm not going to pretend that I know what it's like to run a company worth tens of billions of dollars, nor do I know all the correct decisions to make to appease the minds of millions of daily players with your game and the changes that you make to it. What I do understand, however, is the concept of risk and reward and making safe decisions versus trying to be different and original. When it came to the future of Fortnite a year and a half ago, Epic chose to seriously innovate, which, by the way, is completely normal. And of course, the game is going to, innovate and it's going to change when it updates. Like, that's just how things work. But here's the thing. Epic is not stupid. Quite the opposite, actually, despite all of the extremely controversial changes that they've had in the last year. They fully knew that Chapter 5 would be the most disconnected and different chapter of Battle Royale that they've ever created. This is why I believe Epic giving us Fortnite Season OG was such a backstab in hindsight, because they really only did it for two extremely unthoughtful reasons. Number one is that it was really a safe option. In no world would going back to Chapter 1 not bring back a ton of players, earning Fortnite a ton of revenue and server traffic and like positive light on social media. I mean, referring back to the number, 11.6 million players is their peak player count in 7 years. Amongst all of the other records that Fortnite has set in the gaming world since the conception of video games, that's one of their most impressive feats for sure. And it wasn't a surprise. Like, it was going to do well. They always had this thing to fall back on whenever they really needed it. And number two, I feel like Epic kind of tried to pad and cushion the launch of Chapter 5 by using Season OG as a way to distract everyone with their all-time player peak and it being the talk of the town on social media and YouTube and Twitch just being full of everyone saying, oh my gosh, Chapter 1's back. The game is back. Fortnite's back. It's incredible. Let's play. Everyone get back on. All my friends from high school, all my friends from middle school, let's all play Fortnite again. Hooray. Again, I was in the same boat as everyone else. But I think they were trying to use it as a distraction because they knew way before Chapter 5 was ever released that it was going to be their most controversial chapter in basically every single aspect. To kind of sum up this accusation, it's sort of saying they used Chapter 1 OG to soften the negative reception of Chapter 5. And look where we are now. My YouTube recommended is full of people discussing how Chapter 5 will go down as the most hated chapter in Fortnite thus far, or how Fortnite's Metaverse is collapsing more and more every day. And most of these people, if I'm being honest, are right. But why would Epic release a chapter that they knew was not going to be loved by the majority of players? I honestly think it's a mixture of both of them just not caring about Battle Royale as much, and then the fact they have their eyes fixated on the far future. Emphasis on far there. You cannot neglect the game mode that made you Epic. Without Battle Royale, you are seemingly nothing, if I am to be as blatant as possible. Obviously, there's still work being put into BR, you can't deny that. We're still getting consistent seasons and chapters and content, I'm not going to outright deny that. But the quality and the care and like the most important part of what, most people feel like is missing from the game is the heart that has been stripped out of it. And, it's so rarely seen. It's not really noticeable in the updates anymore. It just all feels like collabs. That's pretty much what the center of all updates is now. And it's upsetting. If you need more proof of this, look at literally just this last week. Like the teasers for Chapter 2 Remix are literally reused season trailers played in reverse with skin PNGs pasted over it. Like, Epic, what are you doing? What is wrong with you? Like, you have the resources to reanimate some things and to like actually splice the same exact clip but with the new skins, instead of just putting a frame of the skin PNG that we see in like the locker. Like, it's not even low quality cryptic in a cool way. It's just lazy. Like, there's no other way to put it. I will be shocked if somehow the quality of those teasers ends up actually making sense for some reason after Chapter 2 is over or whatever. But I really don't know if anything's going to change my mind on that. That is one of the saddest things that I've seen Epic produce in the last couple of years. It's pretty rough. Like, there's really no excuse for a $30 billion company who, by the way, I should mention this, and I feel like it's something, again, not talked about anymore for God knows why. At one point, Epic had the directors of the last 2 Avengers movies working on their events. That fact alone is no excuse for you to be making this terrible quality of teasers. I really could go on with more examples, but I'm trying to make this more of an informational comparison type of video rather than just bashing Epic. Now, I'm not trying to be one of those people that says, oh, I miss old Fortnite because it was better, when in reality they just miss how they felt when they were younger and had less responsibilities and when life was more simple, because that's a very real thing. I think there was a clip of Jacksepticeye talking about how everyone was saying, oh, I miss the old Jacksepticeye, and he like snaps and he says like, no, you don't miss the old Jacksepticeye. You miss how you felt when you were younger watching my old content, because that was your world. That was all you had to worry about was, oh, I can't wait to watch the next Jack video, instead of, oh, I have to wake up and go to work for 9 hours today. It's just like, it's not that the content has changed and therefore it's not good anymore. It's that your environment has changed.
Oh, do you want me to really blow your minds?
Yes, please.
Oh, everybody who's like, I miss the old Anthony or the old Sean.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you don't. You miss how you felt back when you were watching those videos at that time, because you were probably in school and you probably just came home from school and just watched videos all day and had a great time. But now you're grown up. And now you have responsibilities, and now you're in college, and you have a job, and you're probably stressed out a lot.
As much as it's a hard pill to swallow, I respect Jack for being honest and acknowledging that. But I truly believe it is undeniable that the amount of effort put into Chapter 5 of Fortnite has been really lackluster compared to past seasons and chapters. And I'm specifically talking about Battle Royale. And the reason I'm specifying that is because there is an obvious reason for why there has been less work put into Battle Royale. And that is because Epic is trying to push out and work on all these other game modes that they hope will yield themselves in creating, quote unquote, the big Fortnite game engine metaverse, a place where anyone can make any game they want, download assets from, and have more IPs at their disposal than ever before. And you may not believe me, but despite all of what I've said thus far, I actually am for this idea, which you may not believe me when I say that, but I think it's a cool idea. We've had people try, but nothing has really, the idea of the metaverse has been talked about a lot lately in the past couple of years, but I think that Epic has one of the best chances at really pushing this and doing it successfully, at least as it looks right now. But this is probably where the biggest however in this entire video is. Why on earth does it have to be Fortnite? Like, can't you call it something different? Why do all these different game modes and all these different cosmetics and stuff, why do they have to be shoved down the throats of the people that only care about Battle Royale, like myself and like most of your fan base? I mean, like, I don't know how else to put it. Like Rocket Racing didn't even make it a year, and it's not receiving updates, and it's like less than 10,000 players or something. It's severely less than that. It's like there's no one playing anymore. festival has some players, but it's just like nothing compared to Battle Royale. Lego Fortnite, that one, does okay, 50 to 60K average, I think. But even so, when you compare it to its 2.5 million players at launch, that is a severe drop off in a player count. And it's just telling of stuff. Battle Royale should still be your focus. And that's what I can't stress enough, is that's what it has felt like this last year, is that most efforts were being put elsewhere, which is why this chapter has felt so lame in comparison. I think it's crazy to compare it to, like, if you take these 3 metaverse experiments and then compare them to chapter 5, despite the apparent drop off in quality in, the UI, the cosmetics, the map, the guns, like, the whole bullet drop off thing, the movement, they changed the way the characters move, which is just like, why? What was the point of that? It was perfectly fine, and now it just, we've gotten used to it for the most part, but it still looks weird if you watch like old footage, just like, wow, man, that looked so much better. And like in clips, in just everything, it was so unique. And now it just looks like any other shooter game for the most part when you go into third person. I think that comparison of the metaverse experiments that we've had over the last year compared to what I would consider, and a lot of others would, Fortnite's worst chapter yet, that's pretty telling of, at least right now, how this metaverse experiment is going, at least when you decide to switch efforts and not first take care of making sure Battle Royale is still at its most effective and most desirable state. Look, if Epic wants to make a big Disney crossover universe taking over the media world type conglomerate, whatever, then by all means, go ahead. I just wish that before you march toward this potentially bright future with all of your grand ideas as a company, you would look back behind you and look at where the majority of your fans still are, who only care about Battle Royale, and set it up with a team who cares about it, who actively listens to the community when we use our public voice, and just, how the team used to be on top of making sure the content was fresh and original, and making sure that the game was not just chock full of all these really random brands that, a lot of these players are kids and they don't really care about. Anyway, I don't need to get into that part. It just feels like every decision that the company has made with Fortnite in the last, longer than a year, I will say. This was happening in Chapter 4 and even Chapter 3. I cannot remember the last time we had a season other than OG that did not have a crossover skin, and that's sad. I know that Fortnite has become the game of crossovers, so like it should be expected, but it's annoying to a degree that it should be expected. But it just feels like every decision the company has made, the focus has only been about money. And when the game started, it just wasn't like that at all. The original team of Fortnite cared about making a game that was unique and that everyone loved to play and looked forward to playing. And I'm really not asking for Battle Royale to just remain stagnant and unchanging. Like, of course not. Like, obviously, the game would die if Epic just stopped updating it altogether. And that's not what I'm asking for. But to name a few things, maybe some long overdue originality in your cosmetics, maybe just try to have a battle pass that doesn't have a crossover. I think you will be pleasantly surprised at the reception, and I'm pretty sure you can find, usually it's either like the tier 100 skin or it's like the secret skin that comes out later in the battle pass. I think you can find one skin in your library of concepts to be the skin instead of a crossover. Just try it. I promise with my minimal knowledge, I promise you it'll do just fine. Return to a deeper story and lore with your own characters. Classic Fortnite colors and graphics. One of the biggest complaints that I've seen about Chapter 5 is just how gross. Gross is a bad word. Like, obviously the graphics themselves are good. Like, if this was any other game, I'd be like, oh wow, these are really cool. And I'll even acknowledge that. Like, the game looks nice. They're not poor graphics. It's just not Fortnite, and I keep saying that, but it's just, there's no other way of putting it. And I know there's a lot of other people that have used that exact same thing. It just doesn't feel like Fortnite, or it's just not Fortnite. And it's true. It's because if you are going to spend so many years, you know, those years being from chapter 1 all the way up until the end of chapter 4, establishing this, you know, how the gunplay works, how the movement looks, how the colors are, how the graphics are. If you all of a sudden change every single one of those things overnight, which that's what they did, of course it's going to be the worst received chapter, because that no one was asking for that. Like, making that many drastic decisions in one flip of a switch was just not the play. And I would have been way more like receptive to these things if they were like, you know, introduced one at a time, but it was all at once. And after seeing what the reception has been, I think it's safe to say that there has to be some reconsideration on all of the things that were changed in chapter 5 moving into chapter 2 Rewind, as well as chapter 6. I don't know. I mean, I do still enjoy playing this game 7 years later, and I think a good reason for that is due to my ability to leave it and come back. I mean, burnout in games is a serious thing that a lot of people tend to just ignore, and they'll blame it on the game. And I'm aware that, you know, a lot of the time whenever you're not happy with a game, it's better to just take a break, either find a different game or just take a break from games altogether. I wish more people would do that. And it's something that I, you know, try to implement all the time, but you know, we live in a generation where FOMO is like the biggest, scariest thing. So I understand the difficulty of like saying, I'm not going to play for a while, I'm just going to take a break, because, you know, there's a fear of missing out on stuff. And I totally understand that. I just feel like the occasional burnout is not the only factor here, which is the case with most other things or games. I genuinely do believe that the care and the quality of Battle Royale has fallen off harder than ever before in the last year. And I know I'm not the only one that thinks this. I will say that I'm hopeful for the future, as Chapter 6 sounds promising from what we know so far. There's been some talk about the map, and it seems pretty dang cool, I will say. And I think the theme is supposed to be like Japan theme, which, you know, they could do some pretty cool stuff with the POIs as far as that goes, because, you know, the Japanese architecture is super, super cool. And so I'm really excited to see what that ends up looking like. And of course, you know, Chapter 2 Rewind is coming out, which, you know, the word rewind scares me a little bit, because Chapter 1, for the most part, stayed pretty close whenever we got to go back to that map and that time. You know, obviously it was not exactly the same in a lot of ways, but it still felt pretty dang close. And from what they've said earlier today, I actually confirmed a couple things, and we are going back to the Chapter 2 map, and it's going to have a quote-unquote tuneful twist. So I don't know what they're planning on exactly with the whole music thing, but regardless, I am excited to explore that beautiful map and its POIs once again, even if it is not the exact same. Now, since February of 2018, I've been very passionate about Fortnite, and it was the first game that really stuck with me for this long, other than, like, you know, Minecraft, which I could also speak on for hours about, but I digress. I would love to make more Fortnite and other gaming content in general, so depending on how this video does, hopefully you'll hear from me again. I have so much more to say about the past, present, and future of this game, but only time will tell. If you enjoyed this video, please follow me on Twitch. I stream there every week, and I would love to have more people around. Also subscribe here so you don't miss when I upload, and all the other socials that I have are below. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a good one. Peace.